How will the Seattle Seahawks do running the ball in 2025? What's going on, everybody? Good morning. Happy Thursday. Hope you guys are doing well today. And yesterday, we started up our little prediction series, and it's going to keep going in much the same way I think a lot of you guys would probably expect it to keep going. So we did the quarterbacks yesterday, so today is going to be about the running backs, although it might be more fair to call them runners, because not everybody who runs with the ball is a running back. There is some room for quarterbacks to get involved in wide receivers, maybe occasionally even a tight end. So we're not going to discriminate there. We're just going to talk about everyone who is going to run the ball for the Seattle Seahawks in 2025. And this might actually be more interesting than the passing, the quarterbacks, because there's clearly a pretty big bet being placed on this group being able to manage and control the game, because you've made a significant downgrade at quarterback and wide receiver this offseason. Maybe not huge downgrades, but you've made noticeable, impactful downgrades at both of those positions. And you've upgraded, presumably, at offensive coordinator. And one thing that the offensive coordinator that you brought in does that the previous offensive coordinator didn't seem to have a great handle on was run the ball. So you're going to have to minimize the ask of your quarterback and wide receivers by running the ball effectively and often. And I think this team is set up to potentially do it. But what does do it look like? Let's break it down here. Let's go through some of the numbers here. I have a list of players that I think will run the ball for the Seahawks at some point in 2025. We'll go through them one by one. We'll go over their box score numbers, rushing attempts, rushing yards, yards per carry from those two data points, and rushing touchdowns. So if the Seahawks are going to have a good or at least decent offense in 2025, this is the part of the team that really needs to go. Please click the thumbs up button on this video if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're new. Click the bell for notifications. Become a channel member for $2 a month. Those are the best ways to support the channel. All right, let's open her up. Let's start with Ken Walker, who should be the lead running back on this team this season. He's a great fit for what Kubiak should cook up, and he's in a contract year now. So he's got every reason to put his all into 2025. So I went with, on attempts, I went with 230, not a crazy huge amount. There's no reason to give Ken Walker a huge amount of touches. For one, he's probably going to miss a couple games. That's just what Ken Walker does. Even in his best seasons in the NFL so far, he's missed time here and there. So every reason to believe he's going to miss a little bit of time. And honestly, most running backs do. So that's not even that big of a knock on Walker. Like he maybe misses a little bit more than the typical running back, but very few running backs can make it through a 17-game season and play every game and play well at all times. So that's not a reasonable expectation anyway. 230 yards, I went with 1,097, which doesn't sound like a lot in a 17-game season, but remember, I think he's going to miss a little bit of time. And we do have a relatively deep running back stable that I do think we will lean on a pretty good amount. So, by the way, this would come out to 4.8 approximately yards per carry. Not anything superhuman, but quite good. It would be the best of his career. I think this system fits what Walker wants to do very well. I think Kubiak is going to allow us to see the best of K9 in 2025. And that's going to be the main difference that you see. Touchdowns, I went with 12. I do think that at the end of the day, he will end up getting a lion's share of the touchdowns. Obviously, there are other players on this team that are looked at as being a little bit more of a power back. But in practice, I still think Walker's going to end up in the end zone a pretty decent amount as the running back. And this idea of having some kind of a goal line vulture sounds good in theory, but it usually ends up not working out like that in the real world. So 1,100 yards, 4.8 yards a carry, 12 touchdowns. That's a good season. That might make the Pro Bowl, maybe. Now, there is a second head to this backfield stable, and it is Zach Charbonnet. Now, I'm going to say this. Zach Charbonnet, not the best fit for what Kubiak wants to do with this offense. He's not. But we're not going to be running outside zone every single play. I think people need to understand that, right? There are going to be other plays in this offense, and Charbonnet is going to do fine. Yes, he doesn't have the outside speed and maneuverability and agility of a Ken Walker, but I'm sure a guy like Clint Kubiak, who I do think is a pretty bright mind in the NFL as far as offenses go, can figure out a productive way to utilize Charbonnet as a runner. So I went with 102 attempts. It's not going to be anything over the top huge for him. I think that he'll be utilized a decent amount as a third down back and a passing down back, but he'll get his 100 carries. He's a relatively healthy player as well, so I think he'll play most of the season. 421 yards, nothing over the top, which comes out to 4.1 yards a carry, which doesn't sound stellar. Again, he's not a great fit for Kubiak's offense, so it's going to be a little bit more picking your spots, and it's going to be a little bit more of maybe getting the ball on certain give-up plays, like 3rd and 21 or something like that. You give them the ball just to get the play over with so you can punt it. You're going to see a little bit of that probably. And I think that Charbonnet's value will be largely found in what he does in the passing game. I do think he'll find the end zone a pretty good amount. I gave him 6 touchdowns, but nothing particularly stand out here. So he'll have a decent enough season. He'll do his job, but I think Charbonnet's ultimate destiny on this team as it's made up right now is the third down back. Okay, next up we got the quarterback, Sam Darnold, who did do a decent amount with his legs last season. Will probably have to do a little bit more this season because the offensive line he's playing behind will probably be a little bit worse. And he's shown that he can do it. He's got some legs. He can move. He can use his size to grind out yards effectively sometimes. Not that you love to see that, but he can do it. So I think you're going to see a significant impact of Sam Darnold's with his legs in 2025. So I went with 77 rushing attempts. That's going to be quarterback scrambles. That's going to be designed runs. Not that there are going to be a lot of designed runs with Sam Darnold. Quarterback sneaks, all that kind of stuff. So pretty decent amount. 241 yards, just a modest amount for a decent but not great running quarterback. Remember, a chunk of his runs are probably going to be quarterback sneaks, so that's going to bring your yard per carry average down significantly. But 3.1, obviously nothing to get excited about, but we're not talking about a dual threat quarterback here. We're talking about a guy who can run probably a little bit better than somebody like, I don't know, who are the immobile quarterbacks in the league right now? Maybe Dak Prescott now, because ever since the leg injury, he hasn't been the same there. I don't know. Something like that. He can run better than that, but probably not quite as good as somebody like a Joe Burrow. He's okay. And we'll give him a couple touchdowns as well. Maybe a quarterback sneak, maybe a QB bootleg at the goal line on third down, stuff like that. It'll be okay. It'll be workable. And yeah, I think that covers the quarterback's contributions. I mean, it's certainly not nothing. Okay, Damian Martinez, I'm getting the sense, and this could just be offseason hype, Martinez is already supplanting McIntosh as the third runner. So in those games where Walker is hurt and misses time, or we just plain need a third running back for some reason, I think Martinez might end up being the guy we call up over McIntosh. I think we like him. I think this coaching staff feels more of an attachment to him than they do McIntosh because none of these guys were here when we took McIntosh. And I think Martinez's play last season was better than anything we saw from McIntosh in college. And I like McIntosh in college, fine. But Martinez was actually like a featured back who could get the ball as a running back in a traditional setup and be expected to do great things with it. So 65 carries for him from the backfield for me. 300 yards. So I think he's going to be really good. He's going to benefit from not having a big load. Maybe there will be like one game, maybe two throughout the year where he gets a big load. But I think he'll end up hitting some big plays and being very effective and productive. So 4.6 yards a carry about. Not quite K9 level, but he'll be good. And I think that we will end up feeling his impact by the end of the year. I didn't go crazy with the touchdown thing. I know that I've talked about the possibility of Damian Martinez being like a power back for this offense, but again, in practice, it doesn't always happen that way. I think that Walker and Charbonnet are going to get a vast majority of the touchdowns rushing for this offense, even though the theory is kind of sound, right? Now, McIntosh, I just get the sense he's getting pushed to the side a little bit here. There's just not enough speed and not enough pure running ability to really grab on in this offense. And even if he does grab on in this offense in some capacity, it'll probably be as a receiving back anyway, not a running back. That's his skill set. So I went with 11 carries. He'll find a few here and there. 75 yards. He'll bust one long one, get his yard per carry average up to 6.8, but not a huge impact. No touchdowns. I don't foresee that happening. Then we get down to the bottom of the list here. We've got a couple more guys we got to clean up here. Jalen Milroe's first. I do think that he's going to be involved a little bit, and I do think it's going to be him throwing the ball on trick plays and design packages, but he'll also probably run the ball a little bit because that is a legitimate talent that he has. I don't think it's going to be massive. I went with 6 attempts for 49 yards, and that's 8.2 yard per carry average, which, I mean, that certainly would be good, but the impact would be minimal. I just don't think that there's going to be a ton going on in this offense when we're trying to keep it relatively simple with Darnold. And I'm going to say 1 touchdown as well. He comes up with a touchdown run at some point. And that gets us to JSN. Now, I'm sure there's going to be one Seahawk receiver at least who gets some end-around action in 2025. I don't know who it is, though. I'm going to go with JSN for now, but it could be somebody else very easily. It could be Ricky White. Like, he might end up being the guy who looks the best on the end-around stuff. Wouldn't shock me. But I went with JSN 5 carries for 29 yards, which comes out to 5.8 yards per carry. Nothing overly impactful, no touchdowns, but sure. He's going to be a little bit of a player there, but I don't think it'll be anything massive. I don't know if it necessarily suits his game to do a lot of end-around stuff, so I just threw in a couple in there for variety's sake. And the totals here would come out to almost 500 carries, 2,212 yards, which that might not sound like a lot, and it's actually not. I'll get to that in 1 second here. 4.46 yards per carry, so just under 4.5, and 22 rushing touchdowns. So this would be a good rushing offense by the standards of last season. Last season, 2,212 would, I believe, be top 10, and I don't think it would be top 7. It would be somewhere in that like 8 to 10 range. And there would be a lot of offenses, oh, well, not a lot, but a few offenses that are way above it, like the Ravens and Eagles, and a couple others as well that have this crushed, but it would be top 10, just not top 6, not top 7. And in 2025, with the league changing as it always does, it could end up being like a top 8 rushing attack. 4.46 yards per carry would not, but it would be above average. It would be pretty good. And I don't think the offensive line is where it needs to be yet for our rushing attack to be elite, but I think there's enough going on here for us to be good. And that's what these numbers constitute. A good rushing attack that allows us to win some games and allows us to get what we need to get done and protects our quarterback and basically just allows this offense to function with lesser talent at a couple of key positions. So that's what I have for the runners and the, anybody who runs the ball for the 2025 Seahawks. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know how you guys feel about it. I'm feeling fairly good about this setup here. I think this works. But, yeah, maybe another player gets involved a little bit as well. Maybe we see some Cooper Kupp end-around stuff. Maybe we see some, like I said, Ricky White for all I know. But, that's what I got. See you guys later. Go Hawks, and let me know what you think.